We'll move on to our next project, which is adding new data to our table using input box. So first, we double click on the form UI. We give us the skeleton public class format. So we declare our virtual table, which is named table as new data table. So we move on to adding columns to the table we've declared earlier. So data table.columns.add adds a new column, and the name of the column is ID, and the data type it's accepts the data type it's accept is integer. So we move to the second column, which has the first name, and if data type is string, the third last name, data type string. The fourth column, which is age, it has a data type of integer. So we then bind this table with the data grid view one dot data source, which is the data grid view. The bind is this. So when you run our UI, the table will be displayed on top of it. So we move on to the button. So this button is the button which will delete it. So all the code, the functionality of the code here will be triggered when the user clicks on this button. So we want to get the input from the user using the input box. So we first define our variables. So we have the ID int, ID input as string. We have the f name, which is stand for first name input as string, and you have the last name input, which is the L name input as string, and the age input as string. So which are equal to the ID inputs is equal to input box. So this input box, when the user clicks on the UI, an input box pops up. So enter ID is the question which would be asked by the user. So enter ID. So the user will see this message, enter ID and add row. So this one, the user will see enter first name. The user sees enter last name as live. When the user tries to input the prompt message that the user will see. So we move on to input validation. So this block of code confirms whether the user is inputting the right one. So if not, it's numeric. So what this means that if the ID input, which is the variable we declared earlier, is not numeric or not is not numeric, and it further goes on to say or not is numeric age. So we see that if both the ID input and the age inputs are not numeric, maybe instead of the user inputting a number, the user instead inputted maybe a text, like say someone's name may be John or something. So an error. So the user is prompted that the input is invalid because it's not of maybe let's say an of integer form. So if it is not numeric, then message box will show, which means a message should be shown or the user should be alerted that you are inputting the wrong value, so error. So this is more like to tell the user that input may be numbers only. So when the user disobeys it and inputs a text, the user is alerted that now they're inputting the wrong data type. So you move on to, so if the user follows, if the user, the value the user inputs satisfies this rule, we then move on to adding that new rule to what our existing one. So we have the cint, which is we convert the id input into what integer. Example, maybe the user, you see here we said if not numeric, the user can input 1.5. 1.5 is numeric. So what this does is that it converts that 1.5, which is a floating point or a double figure, into an integer. So we have the f name, which is the first name, the last name, and it also converts the age to an integer, which is a single value but not a decimal number. So we further move on to look at how the UI works. Now let's take a look at how the UI works. So see when I clicked on add rule, the input box appeared. So it's asking for an ID, so one. It's asking for my first name. So one, last name, okay, my age, let's say 14. So it is been added. Let's try. So let's see. It's asking for my ID. Let's say I enter John. Let's see. Let's say you is right. So see, this is invalid input. Please enter correct values, which means if ID, instead of us entering maybe a number, I entered it to be John. So that is what is making this error message pop up. So which means that exception has been caused by the system. So that is all. Thank you.